Are you ready for a reboot? Welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. History reminds us those hit hardest often become the change makers. This year, we've all hit crazy economic, social, and emotional rock bottoms. We all get knocked down. Something hits globally, locally, personally. It affects our health, finances, our relationships. We have to recreate a business or career. Each show, Sheila and her special guest will be sharing their reboot stories, guiding you with real solutions to upgrade and up-level emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Here on NBC's KCAA Radio.
Welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mac, and today we have special guest Todd Newton. Todd is known as the host with the most for a good reason. For more than 3 decades, Newton's amiable and reliable on-camera persona has brought us face-to-face with Hollywood's biggest stars, introduced to new cultures in over 15 countries, and presented with everything from Apple electronics to luxury jewelry in the home shopping space. Todd Newton began his career as a top-rated radio personality in the hometown of St. Louis, where he is a proud inductee of the St. Louis Media Hall of Fame. He later went on to the legendary FM radio stations such as KISS in Los Angeles and W New in New York. Newton entered the digital medium in 2015 with the Host with the Most podcast, a weekly interview show featuring fascinating people who are doing fascinating things. The show is available for download on all major platforms. His national break came in 1995 when Todd asked to host the most popular movie review program, Coming Attractions, on E! Entertainment Television. Enjoying a tenure on the network that stretched well over a decade, Todd co-anchored E! News Daily and also hosted E's red carpet coverage of major movie premieres and award shows alongside the legendary Joan Rivers. Wow. And the game show fans recognize Todd Newton for his work on Whammy, Hollywood Showdown, Monopoly Millionaires Club, Instant Millionaire, Made in the USA, The Family Game Night, for which he received the 2012 Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Game Show Host. To date, TN has awarded contestants over $50 million in cash and prizes. Todd is currently hosting The Price is Right Live, a stage production of America's favorite game show. Now in the United States, it's touring the United States and Canada. Wow, you've done so much, Todd. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Okay, and I like to ask all my guests, basically this show came about with my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. And this last 14 or so months, we have experienced every situation that we couldn't even fathom before. So I like to start out by asking, if you had a time in your business or personal life where you experienced a difficult situation and how you got back on track.
Well, let's see. Boy, we're starting off with the negative and just climbing up the hill from here. Okay. Yes, of course. Look, that's what life is about. 365 days a year, and then however many years we're given, however many trips around the sun. I grew up in Missouri, not far from Ozark Mountain Country. And as we like to say down there, thank goodness for the peaks and the valleys, because if it was all just level, we'd wear ourselves out, But I've had a lot of high points, certainly more than the low. But when I was preparing for your show and thinking about what you and I were going to talk about, Sheila, I think that if I had to look back on one period of my life that I would not want to have to go through again, and I would not want to throw in anyone else's lap, it would be what a lot of men and women go through, and that's divorce. I was married for about 8 years to a wonderful woman, and we have 2 incredible kids. As far as divorces go, it was what most would say amicable, rather peaceful. But even the easiest of divorces are tough because it's a major life shift. It's a major transformation. Fortunately, my ex-wife and I had the same vision, and that was to make this as seamless for our children as we possibly could. They were very young at the time. This is going back 15 years. And, I chose to shoulder much of the change myself. I went from living in a beautiful home in Los Angeles to living in an apartment in Los Angeles that was in a complex surrounded by fellow divorcees. I thought maybe I'd find support there. I actually just found that misery loves company there. But like you said, it's all about those bootstraps. I don't know much about the bra straps, but it's much about the bootstraps. And I finally realized that I'm healthy. My career's going great. I've got a wonderful relationship with my children. There's no arguing. There's no fighting with my ex-wife. So I need to stand up and lift my head up high and quit walking around with my tail between my legs and focus on the positives, of which there were many. Financially, it probably took me a good 18 to 24 months to recover, but I eventually did. And I'm grateful for a lot of people that gave me some wonderful opportunities right when I needed them the most. You mentioned the home shopping space. That's when I entered that arena. I had never sold anything on television before, but Home Shopping Network came along with an opportunity. And quite frankly, I snagged it mainly because I wanted to make sure I had a steady source of income, but I'm glad that I did, because I met some great people. I developed put some new bullets in my career gun, if you will, developed some new skill set. And eventually, with the passing of time and with staying focused on what I wanted my bigger picture to be, the negative side of divorce became a thing of the past. And, my ex-wife and I enjoy a wonderful relationship now. My kids are at that age where they're starting to comment on how peaceful it was in comparison to some of their friends' parents' divorces. So to me, that's the win, And what good, what good is the journey if you don't take a couple of bumps along the way to make you appreciate the good times? I guess it's easy for me to say that now, but that's what I focus on.
Right. Oh, I love that. That's something that happens to, I don't know what the percentage is of the population. At least in the United States, it's a really big percentage of people get divorced. And it's such a journey. I actually dedicated an entire chapter to that in my book, because it's something that puts you in a rock bottom. And it's not just going through the emotional change of your identity from husband or wife, to changing everything where you live. Your finances get messed up. It affects your career. It affects everything. And so, and that seems to go with anything that hits us, like COVID this last year or 14 months or so. All these different things can take us off track. And it's like one step at a time that we're able to reboot. So it's beautiful to hear your story and the other side of that, to have a beautiful family and incredible relationship, even with your ex-wife and your kids. And so that does make all the difference.
Well, I think you just nailed it. The other side. I think it's important to remember that there always is another side. There always is the light at the end of this tunnel. And if you just keep moving forward, you're going to get there. And like I said, there's someone listening to your show right now or watching us online who's going through something. It could be a sickness. It could be the passing of a parent. It could be a divorce. It could be the loss of a job. And the trick to it is to not wear that for as long as that nasty side of your brain is telling you to wear it. It's the old devil on one shoulder, angel on the other. That devil, when something's not going right, that devil's voice is right in there, man. You can feel his breath on your ear, but you got to focus over here, because this is life. There's nothing we're going through right now that generations of people, probably our grandparents, great-grandparents, listen, we didn't face the Depression. I've never been shipped off to war. I've never lost a spouse. I've got zero to complain about. Doesn't stop me from complaining, but when I sit down, when I check myself, I certainly put myself in line real quick.
Right. Yes. That makes so much sense. And it's one of those things, I think it's really subtle. I wrote the book when my house burned down with the California fires in Ventura. And I lost my house, my car, and my cat all in a day. And I am not a person that ever has experienced depression. And I was like, wait, something is not right. Why am I, like, it took me a couple weeks and then I changed my mindset. And within a month and a half, I moved over to Beverly Hills. And at first I stayed in a little place, probably where you stayed, over across from the Grove. And then from there, I moved into a beautiful condo, and things just kept going. And then I was able to get a vacation home, and things just kept going positive. But I had to pull myself out of that. I had to be the one to really, at first it was like just little things. I got up out of bed, I started doing, and you have to be giving yourself thanks for what you do instead of criticizing all the things you failed at, because you're just getting back on your feet.
Right.
Yeah.
And listen, and we have to acknowledge that we're all going to go through funks. The society is very aware now of mental health, of depression, of sadness, of grief. We have to acknowledge that that's normal. We're all going to feel that to different degrees. And listen, God bless the folks that struggle with it on a daily basis. And I hope you can get help for that. But none of us are immune to it. We're all going to feel it. If you're human, if your heart's beating, you're going to have sad days. You're going to have happy days. And I try to tell my children that too. And listen, it's not all burritos and sunshine out there. You got to work, you got to hustle, you got to be kind to people. I'm not one of those individuals who believes in cosmic forces like karma. I don't need an excuse to do good. I do good because of the way it makes me feel right here. I do good and try to help other people because I feel like I was raised to believe that that's the right thing to do. And I think we need to kind of fill our buckets, to use an old personal development cliche. We need to fill our buckets with things that make us feel good, not material things, emotional things. And I think if you really open your eyes to that mindset, you'll see your life change too.
Yes.
That's been my experience.
Definitely. And I do like to share on each show about 211. Most people have never heard of 211. They don't pay me for this, but this is something that across the United States and all the provinces in Canada, if you Google or dial 211 in your state or province, you will get help for mental health, help for getting food on the table, getting a job again, getting through legal aid if you're going through a divorce. All kinds of help is there, and nobody knows. So just being able to get somebody to help that you care about, that you love, it could be a neighbor, a friend, an employee, sharing about the 211 is going to help somebody get back. You need to get to ground zero to be able to start building again. So
that's right. I'm glad you shared that. I have heard of 211. I am actually doing a wonderful charity event coming up here in a few weeks for the National Family Resiliency Center. They're based out of the Washington, D.C. area. I'm going to be hosting it, but this is another source, another resource for people who are going through a life transformation. It could be their home burning down. It could be divorce, but all of these occurrences that somehow slip through the cracks. We've got agencies and organizations for just about everything, but what about somebody that can't get back on their train? They can't get out of that divorcee's apartment. They just don't have the oomph to get out there and change things. Well, this center and this organization provides counseling, provides legal aid, provides that little push, because that's a lot. That's all a lot of us need sometimes, isn't it? Just a little push in this direction to kind of remind us of who we are and what we're capable of. So I'm glad you mentioned 211. Yeah, I mean, it's the last thing I would ever want is for someone to feel as if there's nowhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's to feel lost and alone would be the worst.
Makes all the difference. Oh, that's so wonderful and aligned for this show to share about what you're doing as well. So now Todd, where did you start? What brought you into the entertainment industry? Is this something you always wanted, or how did it happen?
Well, I come from a little bit of a show business family. My grandmother was a comedian during World War II, a little bit of vaudeville experience too in the Midwest circuit, St. Louis, Chicago, Kansas City, Milwaukee. My grandfather was a radio broadcaster. I actually, here in my studio, I have his diploma from the Midwestern School of Broadcasting that's dated 1947. But other than seeing how people responded to my grandmother whenever she would do little local shows when she was older in age, I never really had much push other than hearing my father laugh when he would watch Johnny Carson's monologue. It was a special laugh. My dad's a laugher anyway, great sense of humor, but when he would watch Johnny's monologue, I could hear him from my bedroom laughing from down deep, And I realized very early on from watching Johnny at night and Bob Barker during the day, my grandmother loved Bob, that these two guys were entertaining millions of people by just being themselves or a slightly exaggerated version of themselves. I wasn't familiar with what the term host meant at that point, but I liked that. I liked what they were doing. And as I got older, I started to fall in love with FM radio, the rock and roll DJs. St. Louis was a great radio town back in the 70s and 80s, really powerful market. Not that your listeners would care, but we were top 20 radio market. So you got some really good talent coming through there. And I found myself being more excited and entertained, if you will, by the voices that came on in between the songs. It wasn't so much the music, because let's face it, the 80s was not, but so kind of by design, that's the path my life took. I wanted to be on the radio, and I only went to college so I could work at the college radio station. And I finally broke into top 40 radio right when I was 21 years old. And when I was 22, 23, I guess, I'd only been at it for a few years. One of the local TV stations sent me out to Los Angeles to do some interviews for some of the stars that were on the sitcoms that the network was covering. And while I was out there, I found myself my hotel was right across the street from the MTV studios. So I walked across the street, and all I had with me was my one VHS tape of the little TV work I had done. Wasn't much on it, but if you remember, Sheila, it used to cost a pretty penny to get those VHS tapes copied and dubbed off. You couldn't just send a link. But I went to MTV and I asked the receptionist who I would speak to about becoming a VJ, because I thought from FM radio guy, becoming a VJ would be the next logical step. She told me to have a seat. About 15 minutes later, a gentleman came out, Kurt Sharp, who's now an executive at NBC, as a matter of fact. And Kurt took me back in his office, and he popped in my VHS tape, and he picked up his phone and called a few agents. One of them said he wasn't taking any new clients. Another one said, "We'll send his tape over." And I said, no, I can't do that. I only have the one, And the third one said, well, I just had a lunch meeting cancel. If he can hop in a cab and come over, I'll meet with him. So I did that. I had $50 that the TV station had given me for food, and it cost me $40 to get to the offices. I was in the valley, so I had to go over the hill, as they say. Back, you're a former California girl, so you know that I had to go over the hill. Another $5 for the tip left me with $5 in my pocket, but that agent signed me. And 3 or 4 months later, we were shooting a pilot for Maury Povich's production company, which didn't get picked up. But E! Entertainment Television presented me with an offer. Initially, it was 4 years. Turned into 13, and changed my life, So it's all about, sometimes if opportunity doesn't come knocking, you got to kind of kick the door in yourself. But, with the help of Kurt Sharp and that receptionist at MTV not telling me to get lost, Me saving my nickels and dimes to have enough money for one VHS tape, the TSA agent not making it go through the X-ray machine and deleting everything. All the stars were aligned, but you got to keep looking at the stars to make sure that happens for you.
Wow, that's so good. Incredible. So knock on the door and it will be answered. So right now people are in a shift, career shifts. Yeah. Things have changed so much in such a short period of time that we're all looking for new things to do. So keep knocking on the doors until the right one shows up. And it seems that it was aligned, that the right door was.
Yeah. Well, there has to be some focus on your part too. You got to put a little muscle behind the hustle, as my father likes to say. I'm going through, a shift as well. You are as well. This digital medium is still relatively new to all of us. It's still in its infancy. But television people like you and me and radio people like you and me, we love everything that the digital world offers, the freedom, the creativity, the opportunity to express ourselves without, running commercial breaks or having a program director or a general manager breathing down our necks, being able to create our own content and distribute it as we see fit. There's something magical here, but it is a shift. And even for people like me who have been in this industry, fortunately, for over 30 years, it's still on the ground floor. And I got to tell you, I'm loving every minute of it. I can't get enough of it, whether it's my podcast or developing the YouTube channel. I know this is the future, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it.
Yes. Imagine when we were younger, if they had these opportunities.
Oh, you kidding me?
Yes. But that was the hard work.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, the hard work required to get from starting off to doing the radio, the KISS FM, and then going forward and getting into the industry.
Yeah.
What was that like? What was the hours like? What was the work like for you?
Well, when you're 20 or 21 years old, you don't realize how hard you're grinding. You can stay up a little. I just turned 51. When I was 21, I could stay up a little later and wake up a little earlier and not even think about it. But if somebody offered me a midnight to 6 a.m. radio shift right now, I don't even think I'd respond to the email, but back then I looked at it as a dream come true. It's I love when you say mind shift. I mean, that's what it is, but it's also different places in our lives. You got to appreciate where you are right now. You got to appreciate what you bring to the table for someone, because whatever career you're in, you're going to find somebody who tries to downplay your abilities. Sometimes it's out of jealousy. Sometimes it's a negotiation tactic. Whatever the case may be, you are the one that's responsible for being aware of your own worth. Yeah. And back in the early 90s, when I was just starting in radio, I knew that I didn't bring much to the table other than an incredible work ethic. So if somebody needed me at the radio station at 7 a.m. to wash the radio station van, or to organize CDs, or to print off the music logs, I was going to do it. And I was thrilled to do it and honored that I was the one they asked. When you're an intern, you're not doing it for the money. Well, now I have responsibilities. I have a mortgage. I have a family. I have dogs. I like to travel. I have car pay. I'm not going to, would I do an internship now? No way. No. And there's no place that I would even consider working for free at. But I knew my worth then, and I know my worth now. And I think no matter where you are in your life or in your career, you have to hold yourself in very high regards. You have to respect everything that you have to offer someone. So to answer your question, if I look back as a 51-year-old looking at the work of a 21-year-old, it was a grind. It was driving to a radio station in the Midwestern winters or in the heat and humidity of a Midwestern summer and doing whatever it was asked without an expectation of a thank you or an attaboy, So they call it paying your dues. But at the time, I didn't even realize I was paying my dues. I think if you're loving it's that look, they say it all the time. It's absolutely true. If you're loving it, then you ain't going to feel like it's work. And that's the key. You have got to find something that you love. If you're miserable in your career or your job, you only have yourself to blame. There are other careers, there are other jobs there are too many outlets for training, for bettering yourself. You can go online right now and take a college course from Harvard, Yale, Oxford, and it probably costs you more than $300 for that class. You can learn new skills. I've got someone coming on my podcast here in the next couple of weeks, discussion that I'm very much looking forward to having. And we're going to weigh out the advantages of experience over education. Is the higher learning system still relevant? Is it or is it archaic and outdated? I've got two kids that are getting ready to hit college age. Do I want to invest hundreds of $1,000s in a diploma, or do I want to give those kids a little bit of that saving now and then fund a trip to Europe where they're going to go for 6 or 8 weeks and experience Barcelona and Paris and Morocco and Italy, and come back with all of that experience, maybe travel with a few of their friends who, have that same spirit. And if they want, while they're traveling, they can take a couple of college courses a la carte, the things that interest them. Neither of my kids care about geometry or trigonometry. Did I? Why should they have to pay for a class on trigonometry? Or, times are changing. We see it in our industry, and I can't help but think that in every industry, the decision makers, those that are looking for different things. So, sometimes I get off on a tangent over this higher education thing. I apologize, but that's where my mindset is right now. It's about creating a world with more opportunities than I had for my kids and others that I love.
Yes. Wow. That sounds beautiful. And that makes all the difference. I actually adopted 3 children and have 3 of my own. So 6 kids that I'm raising, and they're all pretty much grown. I have one daughter in college because she's studying psychology. That's her passion. But we did take 2 years off of high school, and we traveled the world. I was doing a lot with Tony Robbins and traveling everywhere. And she studied with Chloe Madonis and took a mentorship with her, which is the lady that teaches psychology. You read about her when you get your PhD in psychology, and she helps Tony with his interventions. And so she studied with her, and I was in that group with her, and I said, please let me bring my daughter. And it was the best thing ever. This real open source learning made all the difference. She was able to get hired working at a girls' home for pregnant teens and their babies as a counselor before she had her degrees, where they don't even interview people, but somehow she got her foot in the door volunteering.
Oh, that's great.
Her work, they were like, you can work with these kids. We want you, because they have such a high turnover. And she's been there many years now, at 4.5 years, working with the kids. And just now she's getting 3 degrees this June.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I mean, look, obviously, there's always an exception to that proves a rule. Psychology, medicine, law. What you'll always need degree. I would never go to a lawyer who chose to tour Thailand instead of getting his degree. But I'm talking in other industries. But I think that is so brilliant. And you touch on the importance of mentorships and learning from those who have done what you want to do and done it really well. That is where the invaluable, and I'm sure your daughter would be the first to tell you what she learned during that apprenticeship, she'll never find in a book unless she writes it herself. I am just such a fan of experience, and whether it's gaining your own experience or having others share it, I don't think you can put a monetary value on that.
So now, what would an open source learning experience be like for radio and maybe, I guess, TV or movie?
Well, I'll tell you the example that I can give. When I knew that I wanted to put the focus of my career on the world of game shows. I hosted my first game show in 1999. It was a show called Hollywood Showdown on Game Show Network. And when I went for the test for the audition, it was everything that I loved about television all in one beautiful cocktail. It was a live audience. It was one take. I don't like to do things twice unless it's absolutely necessary, unless a light falls down or a mic goes out. I think if you're passionate about your craft, you should want to do it right the first time. You know, Frank Sinatra thought the same thing. If I could throw myself in that arena and find an excuse to compare myself to old Blue Eyes. But and you sprinkle that with the opportunity to award people lumps of cash or cars or fabulous vacations. Being a game show host is like being Santa Claus 365 days a year. So when I knew that I wanted to do it and wanted to do it well, I was hosting a show at the time that was produced by the same people that produced The Price is Right. And so I asked if I could go to a taping and meet Bob Barker. This would have been the early 2000s. So I went, and then I asked if I could go again the next day. And do you know, Sheila, for about 6 months, I was going to tapings 2 to 4 times a week. And after the shows, sometimes if Bob was able and willing, he would meet with me and we would sit in his dressing room and talk about the nuances of game show hosting, not the things you see on television, but creating drama or emphasizing risk, the power of a pause, all of these things that, look, you would never learn in any textbook anywhere. So that's what I did. You know, I try to practice what I preach in every area of my life. And when I say mentorships are key, I say that because those moments working with Bob Barker when no one else was around, learning from his 50 plus years of experience. He did Price is Right for 35 years. Before that, he did Truth or Consequences. Before that, he was on the radio. So, you know, there's no sense in touching a hot stove twice, as Mark Twain used to say. So I you know, if he's already learned something from a wrong turn, and he wants to share it with me, well, how valuable is that to me? You know, you can't pay for that. So I would encourage anyone, no matter what you do, if there's someone you respect, someone you want to meet, everybody has a contact page on their website. Everybody, you can find a phone number or an email address for just about anyone, or you can get pretty close to them. You know, with my podcast, you know, every day I wake up and I you know, I shoot for the stars. You know, I'll try to get a hold of a couple huge names. But if I don't, you know, the old saying, if I don't hit the moon, I'm going to grab a couple of stars on the way down. And it's just, you got to keep working, because sooner or later, somebody's going to give you the time of day. And that's what's going to push you forward a step or two or three.
Yes. And in my book, my Be in My Boots formulas for being, it's about who you're being and all you're doing. So I got hired into a political field, which I'm not really into politics.
Nor am I. I'm with you. Yeah.
A while ago. So they, you know, they said, what party are you with? And I'm like, Free Spirit. And I thought it was a real party. And so they hired me because my best friend's husband was running for assembly. And I was like helping just as a friend, and how I showed up got me a lot of jobs. And I did a lot with education and nonpartisan things to help us all have better education in the United States. And that was my big thing, was kids. And with all my kids that I had, that was the thing that was my heart. But I kept getting hired to help other people in a realm that I wasn't even interested in. But it wasn't that I was doing politics. I was working with people. I was leading. I was getting the vote out and helping to keep people happy and make jokes and have fun while we're doing something that nobody really likes to do, I guess. And so that's what happened. So how you show up, it doesn't even matter if you're showing up in your industry. People will see who you really are, and then you'll get job. I never even filled out applications to work. The jobs that I had for other people, it was always me showing up and then getting offered, and they said, oh yeah, fill that out, fill that application out. After the fact, they offered me the job and I accepted. And so it was just showing up 110% of who you are, and the people find you, and that's it. So that's something that I really taught all my children, and the rest of them all have their own businesses.
If you are just tuning in, this is NBC Sheila Mack Show here on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and today I'd like to give a special thank you and shout out to the sponsors of this episode, Lindsay Kluin. If you are ready to supercharge your healing journey and have more joy and clarity in your life, Lindsay Kluin is here for you. Lindsay's truest passion has been supporting sensitive souls like you with her intuitive readings, healing, and classes for over 12 years. Lindsay amplifies what supports your best and highest intentions while gently clearing away what doesn't support you. Every session is unique and is catered to your questions, hopes, and dreams. Her clients have experienced profound healing on every layer, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Her website includes testimonials like this. As I'm writing this, the morning after the session, I feel like parts of me and my past have been healed. I feel more clear-headed, lighter, and more connected to spirit. Another says, she has not only helped me navigate some very tough times, but she has also helped several of my family members. Talking to Lindsay is like talking to a guardian angel. Book your session or register for her classes at www.lindsaykluen.com. That's www.lindsaykluen.com.
Matter of doing your passion instead of doing what you think you're supposed to do.
That's right.
So when I was really young, I went to computer programming because it was this was when it went from DOS to like computers. It was that shift. Uh-huh. And I was at JPL NASA doing programming, and I did the extra hours, but I hated it.
Yeah.
I did not. I mean, even my body, I had the carpal tunnel syndrome, the whole 9 yards. My body didn't even like it. You had to dress like really old, and I was so young.
Right.
And I was like, this is just not fun, but I'm doing it to make this money.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I was leading the OSHA safety classes and working with people. And I was like, this is what I like. No, don't give me a desk job, please.
You know what I believe? I think that if you're doing something just for the money, even the money isn't fun having. No. There's never enough of it. It's just, but for some reason, the opposite is also true. If you're doing something because you love it, well, then you feel like you got a little jingle in your pocket. Maybe happy hour with your friends is a little more fun, or dinner, is a little more lively. But yeah, I'm with you. And when we were going through this pandemic and everybody said, well, some things are never going to go back to normal. Like, we're never going to see people shaking hands again. And I sure hope that's not the case. I mean, I get it. And, I wore my mask and I'm vaccinated and I did everything a good citizen is supposed to do. But to me, shaking hands with someone is a lot more than their flesh touching yours, or, the possibility of germs spreading.
Okay.
That handshake is a connection. And when you can look someone in the eye and you shake a hand and you're giving your word, or you're making that first impression, man, that's a very valuable movement that mankind has turned into this symbol of integrity and trust. And I hope we don't lose that. I'm happy to carry a little thing of hand sanitizer in my pocket. Look, I'm a game show host. If you take away hugs and handshakes, that doesn't leave me with a whole lot. You know what I mean? But I'm with you. That first impression, that walking in, that showing up ready to rock and roll, ready to give it everything. My goal has always been, in any contract negotiation that I've ever taken part in radio or television, never be the highest paid on the staff. Never be the one that breaks the budget. I would rather people hear Todd Newton and think of someone who exceeded their expectations and gave them more bang for their buck than to think of me as someone who, made them have to cut corners at craft services. I don't want to be that. I want to be the one that gets the call next year, the next season, the next cycle, the next event. And it all boils down to showing up, being ready, and exceeding those expectations.
Yes, definitely. Now, what advice would you give your younger self, knowing what you know today?
Let me see. Let me see if I can picture that guy. Oh, let's see. He was thinner. He didn't have as many crow's feet, certainly not as many tattoos as he does today. I would tell him to really focus on the wisdom of your father. When we're in our 20s, we're coming out of that phase where we think our parents aren't as cool as they think they are. I tell my kids all the time, you don't have any idea how cool I am. They're still not buying it. But we think we know everything when we're in our early 20s. We think we are 9 feet tall and bulletproof, and we're not. I like to say, I never knew how much I didn't know until I stopped pretending I knew everything. And my father used to tell me that success comes down to 3 things. It comes down to hustle, a handshake, and homework. So I would remember that. I would work even harder than I did, even though I was a grinder back then. I would focus on the handshake, the importance of professionalism, respect, integrity. And I would focus on homework, being prepared, over prepared. If you do those 3 things, if you work harder than anyone else is working, if you stand by what you say, if you're where you're supposed to be 5 minutes early and you stay 5 minutes late, and if you prepare like no one else has ever prepared, you will be successful. It is impossible to fail with those 3 bullets in your gun, to use that comparison again. So I would tell my younger self to stay focused. Don't get distracted by pretty girls. Don't stay out so late unless you're getting paid to do so. Stay the course, work a little harder. But I'm very proud of the path I took. I would never sacrifice anything that I've ever done for a bigger house or a fatter bank account. I'm very comfortable. I'm very happy. I love where I live. I've got a car that gets me where I need to go. I've got wonderful kids who eat nutritious food. I've got health insurance, So I wouldn't go back and change anything. I don't believe in regret. I've never met anyone. Maybe you have. I've never met anyone who's ever gained by staring in the rearview mirror, So yeah, I would tell that younger Todd to just keep doing what you're doing. If you want to press down on the gas a little harder, you can do it, but don't run yourself out. Don't burn yourself out. Don't go out of control. Just stay focused and enjoy the ride.
Wow. That sounds like wonderful advice and something we can do now going forward still, for sure. So now tell me a little bit more about what the future looks like for your product, your productions and shows. And
well, fortunately, the world is opening back up a little bit. So the Price is Right live touring show, which I've had the pleasure of hosting now for 19 years, we are kicking off our fall tour coming up here in about 6 weeks. So I'm very excited about that. If you've always wanted to be on The Price is Right, but you've never been able to make it out to Hollywood, go to pricesrightlive.com and you get tickets. We're coming to your show. We're going to be all over the country. So I'm excited about that. And I'm going to continue to build my brand, which is the Host with the Most. The Host with the Most is a trademark that I own, and I've written a book by the same name. I have a podcast of the same name. And I just want to continue growing in this digital world. I think, I look back on my career and I think about all the auditions I've done and all the pitch meetings at various networks and, the green lights and the rejections, it's all part of the puzzle. But now we live in a world where we all have an outlet to the entire world. I could be my podcast. We have listeners in 8 or 9 different countries. The last time I looked, that's incredible to me as a kid that was on the radio in Missouri. And if, people in one city could hear me, now the entire world can hear us. And I can go on whenever I want with YouTube. I control the content. I write my words, all of that. So I want to dive headfirst into this. I want to continue to swim in this world because that is the future. And now there are no age limits on us. In Hollywood, once you hit 40, things change. The hosting world is a little different than the acting world or the modeling world. There's always a role for a guy that's got a little gray in his hair, and I'm grateful for that. But with YouTube, I don't have to ask permission. I don't need anyone's nod of approval. I just get on there and I do what I do. So my YouTube channel is growing. I'm very happy, very encouraged by that. And that's my future because there is no finish line there unless I want there to be one. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm going to be living for, in addition to the Price is Right Live and the television projects that come along. I'll be living in the podcast and YouTube dimensions until I decide I don't want to, until I just find a little bungalow on the beach someplace, rescue a few dogs and just let my hair grow and walk around in flip-flops and cargo shorts. That doesn't sound bad either, quite frankly.
That's great. Now, where can people connect with you? Let's see, the Price is Right Live. Is that like .com?
PriceIsRightLive.com, but my website, which has links to everything. You can order my books. You can find our YouTube channel there, is ToddNewtonOnline.com. I keep it really simple, ToddNewtonOnline.com. You can connect to my podcast, which is a weekly interview show with fascinating people who are doing fascinating things, I say. And I really enjoy the art of conversation, as I know you do, Sheila. You're very good at it. And this has been a great back and forth. And that's what the world needs more of. We got to put these things down and focus more on, two people sharing ideas, talking, point, counterpoint. I enjoy that, the exchange of information. So ToddNewtonOnline.com is where you can find everything.
All right. Thank you again for being a guest on the show. And for those tuning in, we'll be back after these messages.
Okay. Hello, friends. If you are just tuning in, this is NBC's Sheila Mack Show here on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. And I am so excited to be able to announce that I will be a guest speaker on the Quantum Miracle Mastery docu-series Heal. And with that, I actually have a complimentary pass for anybody who would like to join in. The docu-series starts live on May 26th, and we have so many incredible people that will be speaking on different forms of mastering miracles and healing. We have Bruce Lipton and many other speakers. So I'd love to have you attend. And if you would like to get your complimentary ticket, go to https:// Z like zipper, C like cat, 273.isrefer.com/go/quantum miracles/Sheila Mack. And I look forward to having you as special guests. All right, stay tuned. We have more messages after this. Welcome to Dear Sheila, answering real questions with real solutions to help reboot your life. My career got taken out. How do I reinvent my work life? Dear Sheila, after dedicating my time and life to a company this year, after 22 years, my employer went out of business. Now I'm struggling to start over again, reinvent my life, and figure out how to step into a similar career. I'm very qualified to get close to retirement age, and it seems impossible to find any wage that matches my experience. My question is, what can I do at the age of 53 to restart in the work world while not burning out? Signed, Jobless at 50-something. Dear Jobless at 50-something, this is definitely the time for rebooting and reinventing your career and life on your terms. Often in the case of having to start over in a career, some reinvention is necessary. With your experience and connections in the field, you can use this time as an opportunity to design your work and life. Let's run this situation through the Boots formula. Throughout life, one can find themselves facing a difficult situation that often catches them by surprise. Over the years, I saw the patterns in all the times I've had to reboot, and in how I've helped my friends and clients get through a hard time and quickly back into action. Ultimately, I came up with the Boots formula. The B in the Boots formula is for being. It is about who you are being and all you are doing and who you need to be in this situation. You are going to have to be authentic and creative with how you design your new work life. At this point in your career, you may be the exact person to advise and help a new business get started. Write out a perfect day at your new dream job. What would that day look like? Would you be an advisor in a similar position or an entrepreneur? Who are you being in this vision? Being honest about who you must be in your search is key. The O in the Boots formula is for orientation. To get the outcomes you desire, you must be honest here. It is not better than it is, nor is it worse than it is. It simply is what it is. Make a list of your resources. Who do you know in the industry, similar industries, and what are your former coworkers doing? Again, be really honest about your outcomes, the outcomes you want. The next O in the Boots formula is for order of operations. Now that you know who you need to be and your orientation, you can decide in which order you must do things. You may need to take on part-time work. Be okay with that and proud of yourself for moving forward. If you do take an in-between position, do not stop applying to the dream job. In the long run, the order in which you do things is going to really drive your results. The T in the Boots formula is for thinking. This is where your mindset comes in. Stop waiting for the perfect new position to show up before you're happier. Choose to live in a grateful and happy state now and in each step in this process. When you go in for interviews or build your own company, your new employer or client will feel your energy. Be so proud of yourself for stepping up and designing your new work life. You will find as you choose your happiness now and express your truth and essence, the position that you are seeking will find you. The S in the Boots formula is for stepping up. This is the part that puts all the other pieces you have planned into place and gets you and your work life back into action. The time is now for us to collectively work together to rebuild this year. My hope is that this video series and my new book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, helps. In my book and on my website, I provide plenty of free resources for anyone dealing with a rock-bottom situation to reinvent and reboot their business and personal. If you are just tuning in, this is NBC's Sheila Mack Show here on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and today I have a couple of announcements. First, I would like to hear from you. That's right. I would love to hear from you, to be honest. I want to know what your breakthrough is, what your reboot is, how are you reinventing and rebooting your life, what shows would you like to hear more of, what information do you need to help you get back on track this year. And to do that, the best way to connect with me is actually through my new YouTube channel, and that is Sheila Mack Show on YouTube. And there you can see past recordings, and you can also see other other information and shares that I have, and I would love for you to share in the comments there what you're needing more of and what you're rebooting this year and how we can help you get back on track.
The Hebo Tea Club's original Pure Pouty Arco Super Tea helps build the red corpuscles in the blood, which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95 plus shipping. To order, please visit lovemysupertea.com. That's love, L-O-V-E, my, M-Y, super, SUPERTEA.com. So the complete website is lovemysupertea.com. Or call us at 818-288-4128, Monday through Saturday, 9 to 5 California time. That's lovemysupertea.com at 818-288-4128.
Is not one size fits all, just like a pair of boots or a bra. So the formula is designed to help you through any situation.
Grab a copy of my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. It is now available on Audible as well as on Amazon and Kindle and at www.sheilamac.com.